I am going to move us right along then, and I'm going to call on Estella Mah, who is our last year and still acting finance manager. David Biddiscombe is our incoming, but of course everything's very new to David, so we're asking Estella to just give us a little overview of Concur. Concur is the process or the platform that you will use as area directors to get paid for your mileage. If there are other things, there's not a whole lot other than mileage that we do reimburse for, unfortunately, but I want to call on Estella to walk us through that portion of things. So Estella, are you ready to go?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Rena. Okay, so welcome everybody for the second part of the district finance. And thank you for Rena for introducing the Concur expenses, which is really the hub of the expense claim, approval, and disbursements. What it means to us is it is an expense approval for those who are new to the district leaders team, and for approval, for expense approval, and it will expedite the reimbursement system, and the user submit the expense claim and then reviewed by the approvers by the layers of management, and it was ultimately sent to the Toastmaster International for review and dispersed to your designated account of your choice. So I'm just going to today, I'm going to briefly have an overview of how you sign in the create an account for Concur and put in your banking information, and how to create a new expense report and the information that you probably needed to put it in, and how to attach the receipts and submit the receipts, and quickly go over correcting expenses and resubmit when you have any problem coming up. And first of all, you need to create a Concur account. And prior to that, at the beginning of the year, we already have done some legwork of sending a list of the area directors and division directors and all the leaders team to Toastmaster International concurrently. And what they have done is they will match up with what, according to your Toastmaster International Toastmaster members number as a link. So what you really need to do in that sense, that rather than have yourself log in as Estella Mah or somebody else, you will need to put in your membership number. And for that, when you create an account, log on the www.concursolutions.com, and you will use your 8 digits of members number and then add toastmaster.org. And if you don't have 8 digits numbers or less than the 8 digits number for your membership, please add leading zeros before it, and the system will only recognize that 8 digits. And please use the password welcome to initiate your account, all lowercase. When you come into Concur, you'll be able to see this homepage here. And what we call here on the top of this is called a quick taskbar. And this quick taskbar will allow you to start a claim and the upload receipt, and the remaining one is not quite relevant. But in the middle, you will see this employee training toolkit. And if you have time, you can go through the training video there. There's a whole lot of functions that some of those might not be applied to you. And what I find it valuable is there are instructions in the end that show you how to upload your Concur in a mobile app. On the bottom of your screen, it will show My Task, and this is open claims here. When you have an open claim, when you started an expense claim in this portal, and you haven't submitted that, you are in the process of correcting it, or someone try to update it, it will show its number. There's a number there. If you have 2 open items, you will have number 2 there. And then all you have to do is click on that open items, and you'll be able to update that. First of all, what you need is to access your profile. The profile right on the right top corner under your profile, there's a profile settings. You need to click on that profile settings to change a few options about yourself being in Concur as a user. What I would recommend is, of this, you need to change your personal information. You need to change a password of your choice. And you also need to provide the banking information that Toastmasters International will be able to pay to your designated account. And as well as the expense preferences, which I'll be going over a little bit later. By the way, the personal information, what you need to put in is the name, membership number, and the email address that you will be connected when the expense report came through. The banking information is pretty straightforward, and knowing that this is a U.S. residence, what you need is if you have a personal check of your current account, it will be useful to put it in. And if you don't have a current account, you can go to your bank and ask for a direct deposit slips that the bank will show you a list of your routing number, your institution number, and also the account number. Now with this check, there is an institution number behind the account number, but for Canadian checks, we usually have the institution number in the middle and then followed by the account number. And besides that, you will need to know your branch address, the branch, your bank name, of course. And once you fill that in, Toastmasters International in a few days will deposit $1 to your account as a test to verify this transaction being go through. And later on, this will be your designated account. And when you sign on your portal the second time, it will show on your profile underneath that your bank account has been confirmed. And this is how you know that it's being processed. It is recommended that you put expense preference here. When you check on the box here, the two main ones that I would recommend is the check on send the email when the status of the expense report has changed, and send the email when there is an expense report submitted for approval. So those two are very beneficial to you and helpful, because once you know that you submit the expenses, then you know that it has been going to the way of the approval. And the last part that I would also recommend is to prompt when the approver has prompt the approver that the expense report is in the way and there's an expense report being submitted. So from my point of view, that I know that when I log in Concur, there is a report waiting for me to review. Now, how to create an expense report is pretty simple. There are two ways to do that. One is on your quick access taskbar, where you can see the start the claim. And also on your menu bar, there is also an expense category there. And you click on that, there is a manage expenses, and there are active claims, a big box underneath there that you can create a new expense claim. I have created myself from my portal expense example for an area director, pretend myself as an area director, submitted a mileage claim from Red Deer to Edmonton, Southwest. So the first time that when you wanted to put in your expense claim, the claim header is very important. And as you see, there's a red mark beside the box, just so you know that the red marks are all the required fields. If you haven't filled up all the boxes with a red bar beside it, it will come up with an error message. And then you will have to be prompted to fill in the information as requested. The report date would be the transaction date, the day of the travel, where for the district training. And please put in a little bit of the comments, explanation of the purpose of the visits or the purpose of the travel. And once you did that, the mileage for the district training, it will come up with a line item here. And if you happen to have 2 or 3 receipts, then usually I would suggest you please add different line items for each individual receipts, because later on you will have different reporting code and different travel expense nature that you will, it's just easier to manage that way. Once you put in your the line item there, a tab will show up. It is a new expenses, and you will have to choose whatever the purpose of the expense types would fit in your purpose. And this one is expense type is for mileage. So you would have to check on travel mileage. See this. Now we have this heading here, the claim heading here, mileage district training. And this new tab will come in where you need to fill in all the details, with the mileage being put in automatically and the transaction date. And the other details, the expense type, the payment type would normally be out of pocket, unless this is for credit card payments. But usually for the division and area directors, these will all be out of pocket expenses. Make sure that you have this Canadian denominations check, and Concurs usually at the beginning of the portal where you set up in the banking information is, and is also district is also controlling this portal as put in usually in Canadian funds as a denomination of deposits. And the number of miles is not actually a number of miles. We will need it to put in kilometers, and it would be preferable for you to put in kilometers in both ways. And then it will, with the calculation shows in the comments here, it will be clearly indicated the amount being claimed is supportive in terms of the distance and also with this receipt that was being attached. Also, reporting code has a list of expenditures that are being populated, and you can do your best as you can, because this is for area director travel. So you will want to check on area director travel. And if this is the division director travel, there is also a line item for division director travel as well. The subsidiary will be in conjunction, in coordination with what you have, because this is an area director. Subsidiary would normally be area rather than district. Please do not forget to save your report. Once you save it is preferable, because you have, before you attach your receipts, saving your report is crucial. Otherwise, you will have to do it over again. And just a friendly note that usually when you submit the receipts, and it is recommended to submitted within 30 days that was being incurred. It's just so that it is more beneficial or more complete on the transactions that the expenditures for that currently being captured in our accounting system, because the Concur usually sync with our accounting system, and once Toastmasters International upload this information, and it will process it over to Concur. And the receipt would normally be the original receipt you have associated with the vendor, rather than sometimes if you have credit card receipts that show just one line item that you purchased from somewhere, we would probably, for audit purposes, would need to have your original receipts. Now for travel, it is important for that Google Map distance being uploaded as part of the receipt. And as I have mentioned that this, in my example here, if you recall that from the expense report, that the total kilometers would be 284, which is 142 both ways. And in this Google Map distance, you go into Google Map and type in the directions for both from Red Deer to Edmonton. It will show you the distance here. And I believe that we are currently going through the process of developing the district guidelines. So once the district guideline is out and have everything, the kilometers and the mileage rate is being set in stone, that we can be confirmed about what we will need to claim for mileage. But for now, according to the discussions, is 50 kilometers as a guideline. And if you have, even though if you have city limits travel, the first 50 kilometers are exempted for are not reimbursable, and anything after 50 kilometers in both ways can be claimed as expenses. And the rate would be 22 cents per kilometers. To attach the receipt, please ensure that you have the, there are two ways to do it as well. On the bottom of your expense report, there is an attached receipt here. You click on that button, or you can go to the menu bar. There's a receipt here, and you can also drop down, click on the drop down menu. There's a dialog box to ask you the attached receipt, and you can browse your locations of your Google Map distance and upload it from there. Now with foreign currency, especially with Trio, and some of you may have incur some Toastmasters International purchase, and usually this is in the US dollars denomination. So with that, you can utilize the US dollars as the denominations for this currency, and then put in the US dollars. And once you put in the US dollars, Concur will populate the US dollars to Canadian conversion rate according to the transaction day that it was processed. And then this will just be a Canadian funds. And you have also, when you have credit card expenses where you have the total Canadian converted amounts, then you can compare. If you prefer to use that as an expense claim, you can. But make sure that you have this, check it as Canadian funds and put in the Canadian converted value there. And in addition to that, please attach the receipt of that particular transaction. Once you are done with all this information that put in, you are now ready to submit your report after you save it. And as simple as that is just to submit your report. And sometimes if you have error and alert messages, Concur is very user-friendly. and they will show you where you can correct and resubmit it again. Sometimes you might not get, it might take a little while for you to get your expense report paid. It's because of the reports are sent back to you for corrections. And usually this expense report, once it's submitted, it will go to the finance manager, and the finance manager will check in all this information to ensure that everything is correct. And when there is some new information or some corrections need to be made, then he will send it back to you and provide it with a brief explanation. And all you have to do is go in this managed expense report, open the report, and there will be a red box there that it was returned. All you have to do is click on it and change whatever that's needed and resubmit it again. So this is just the, I hope this information is helpful with the brief introduction of the Concur expenses and pretty user-friendly. And I would encourage you to start create your own account. And if you have any questions, please ensure that you let me know or let David know. And this, I'm sure that what we have in here for today's presentation is going to be on the portal for you. So I will stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Rena.
Thank you, Estella, very much. Yes, good job. I would like to say that Concur initially can be a little bit confusing, so I just want to clarify a couple of things. Number one, we're here to help, as Estella said, and we'll certainly help walk you through the process. We've had a few questions in the chat window while Estella was presenting, and I've kind of given a little bit of weird information because we are going into our budgeting process, and one of the things we have discussed is giving each area director a $50 stipend in the year to cover cost of, say, parking and or even intercity or in the city travel, because in reality, unless you go more than 50 kilometers one way, we don't pay for your travel. So we just thought that that would be a little bit of a help to our urban area directors. If you are an area director who is traveling, heaven help you, to, like Peter's going to travel to Fort McMurray. We do not expect him to do that entirely on his own dime. At 22 cents a kilometer, it's not great, but it's better than it was last year. They threw us a real curveball last year with mileage, but they've corrected that. So that's one of the things that we'll go into in more detail in the future, but the mileage thing is predominantly for our rural area directors, that they get covered for 2 official visits a year. And we will look at perhaps expanding on that depending on our budget, which we are going to be going into the budgeting process here in the next few weeks. So please keep that in mind, and if you've got questions about how we use Concur, please reach out to me. All right, I am looking at if the distance from your home club or from town center to town center. Jason, you would do it from what Google Maps shows as your mailing address, I believe, is Bonnyville, so it would be Bonnyville to North Battleford, and that would give you your mileage. In reality, to me, it kind of works out. I've been submitting mileage because I live where nobody else lives, so I'm always traveling for Toastmasters things, and I simply do it from my center to the Google Maps. So technically, when I do Google Maps to Edmonton, it technically would take you to the downtown post office, because that's how mileage works. If people didn't know that, when you see a map mileage, it's to the downtown post office, because that doesn't move. Otherwise, the outskirts of a city move all the time, so your mileage would never be correct. That's a little known fact that I learned when I was a tour director for 14 years. when can we expect a District 99 calendar of deadlines? Actually, the calendar is already on the international or on the portal, so it can be accessed there for most all of the deadlines. We do have, and this is on the area director and division director checklist, a little uncertainty about mid-year training for all of you, because we don't know yet when our district trio mid-year training will be. I know we don't like using the word trio, but that's explanatory. We haven't gotten the dates on that yet, and of course some of that is very much up in the air. It would be either the January 23rd, 2021 weekend or the January 30th, 2021 weekend, because this year I want us to have our training for you guys after we come back from our mid-year training, because it just makes more sense to me. Okay, Richard's got telling that the calendar is on the SharePoint site. Just looking to see if I'm missing any other questions here.
There's one from Joan. She was asking if this stipend needs to be applied for or will be sent to them automatically.
No, it will need to be applied for through Concur, and I think we are going to have a little discussion amongst us, the district management team, as to how we will note that in our Concur expenses. Estella, can you just give me a yes or no? Would you think we'll have to do that?
No, I think what will happen is everybody, the finance manager will have to take care of it and ensure that everybody is right on there as part of the Concur user, if I understand the questions correctly.
Well, we're just asking about the $50 stipend. Mm-hmm. Will they, because they won't be able to necessarily have a mileage receipt for that, like we would have, like say if I'm going from Cut Knife to Edmonton, I can put in my mileage, but we're doing this as more of a stipend. How do you think we will deal with that in Concur?
I think that what would be happening is to put in comments, and still probably a Google Map is required for audit purposes.
Except that's not going to work. Okay, we're going to have to discuss this, guys.
Yeah,
that's not going to work. So we will figure out a way, and we will definitely get that information to you going forward. All right, because we have to figure out how we can keep Toastmasters International happy and keep you guys happy too by giving this little stipend to each of you. Anybody seeing, can Concur be used by clubs? No. Oh, somebody's already said no, so that's good. Is anybody seeing any other questions?
Yeah, there's one there from Tabani. Is there a follow-up meeting with the missing division directors for the portion of the breakout session? We'll take that offline and follow up with those with the two division directors to ensure that they get something set up ASAP. But whatever the case is for Division D and Division F, we'll make sure that your division directors are in touch with you ASAP.
Right, and the division council meetings, same as the area council meetings, are required two in the year. So we just thought that this was an opportunity, and it's one that when we're in person, often the division directors will take their people, have lunch together, and do the division council meeting at that point. So we just thought we got everybody together, we'd take a half hour of their time or whatever for them to do their division council meetings at this point, but it is up to them as to the timing of it going forward from here. And we will be having makeup training for additional area directors who come on board, because as I said, we are still outstanding about 11 or 12 area directors. Please, if you know people who are interested or would be gangbusters to be good area directors, please send their contact information to me or reach out to them and ask them if they would like to be with you on this journey.